Raina, or am I? The topic of today's video is my name. Is Raina your real name? It's a question I've been getting a lot lately, and it's funny, I've been in this industry a decade now, and for the first half of it, people just accepted that's my name and nobody cared because we were so few and far in between when it came to all the different mermaids. And the thing was, everybody had a mermaid name, so if you had a mermaid name, nobody really bat an eye, and Raina is my mermaid name. But Raina is so much more than just my mermaid name. Raina is actually a nickname I've used since I was in high school, literally half my life ago. I got the idea for it from a street by my home called Rain's Mill Road. I thought rain was really pretty. And there's this Canadian band with this singer that I love called Rain, Our Lady Peace, and I really liked it. And so I tried to use Rain for a while. I was really into arts, I was really into music, and I would use Rain as my signature all the time. But then I decided to add the ah to it to give it a little bit more of a feminine touch. Plus, I ran into a few people named Rain and they were all guys. So yeah, I switched to Raina. And then a few years later, I read this really amazing graphic novel called Blankets, and I really identified with it. It's by Craig Thompson. He's an amazing artist. And one of the characters in the book was named Raina, and I really identified with her. And I felt like, wow, this is kind of like a sign from the universe. I have a lot of names I go by, not just Raina. In fact, my family is really Irish. Green. They're really Irish, and one of the traditions in an Irish family is that the eldest sister is called Sissy, or Sis. And I have 3 younger sisters, so I've been called Sissy. And it's not just my sisters who call me Sissy, it's my whole family. It's kind of funny when I'm out in public with my parents and they say, "Come on, sis." People are kind of like, ooh. But yeah, sis or Sissy. And then what would happen is some of my friends from high school, junior high, that sort of thing, they would hear this and decide to call me sis or sissy too. And I still have friends who call me sis or sissy. Of course, I've also been called teacher or miss from my time in the school system when I was teaching elementary school or teaching preschool or working with kids with special needs. So, Raina. Here's the thing. Raina isn't a character. Raina is not a persona that I put on. Raina is not something that's of a facade. Raina is just me. I'm just Raina. Raina is my name I've always used, and I love it, actually. It gives me a lot of confidence. There's only a few people in my life who call me by my birth name, and that's fine, but it's a very intimate thing. So when you see my birth name in things like, for instance, my documentary, there's a reason behind that. Or if you see it in a book or a publication, there's a reason behind that too. But there's also a reason why I use the name Raina. And before I get into that completely, I want to talk about why mermaids use mermaid names sometimes. Maybe you're trying to figure out if you should use your name or a mermaid name. And to be honest, there's pros and cons to both of them. It depends. What else are you doing while you're also being a mermaid? Are you working? Are you going to school? Are there any potential conflicts for you in doing those things and where having a stage name may be appropriate? Or maybe your real name is difficult to pronounce and you like to use a version of it, or even just something different. Or maybe you're just inspired and you feel creative. Sometimes using a stage name for your mermaid persona can help with your branding in your business, set you apart. It's awesome, but you can also use your real name too. There's so many mermaids out there, and I'd say it's probably split down the middle, half and half. Some mermaids use their real name, and like my friend Vanessa, she goes by Mermaid Vanessa. On my team, half of the mermaids have names that they've decided on for very personal reasons, and the other half just go by their real name. I have Mermaid Victoria. I also have Mermaid Nessie, who, you guessed it, loves the Loch Ness Monster. I have Mermaid Kristen, and then I also have Mermaid Mimi. And Mimi chose her name because it was her grandmother's name, and her grandmother is a big influence in her mermaid career. The thing is, choosing a name like that is very personal, it's very intimate, and it's very important to our identity and who we are and our brands and our business that we build up. So it's really important that you respect it. Respect someone's choice. I had this discussion on my Facebook page with some mermaids, but also some regular old people who don't go by their full name. Maybe they use initials like my friend AJ, or maybe they go by their middle name like my friend Michael Drew, who I've only ever known as Drew and just figured out his name is Michael, and my mind is kind of blown. thing is, if you don't know somebody very intimately, you shouldn't assume to call them by anything other than the name that they ask you to call them. It would be really weird to me if my fans started, for instance, calling me Sissy, right? That's a name my family gave me and has nothing to do with Raina, and it would kind of freak me out. In the industry, I find people can sometimes be condescending about names. It's like it's some secret that they know your real name, and they'll whip it out when they're mad at you and use it as a way to kind of make you feel small, like, oh, I know this about you. And it's always really done in a disrespectful way, like they're having a debate with you and then they go, well, Andrew, and it's kind of like, gee, I don't know you. Why do you think you have the right to call me that? So Raina. When I decided to keep using Raina, I was in a different place in my life. I was on track to be a teacher, and I really wasn't sure about the possible implications of that and conflicts of interest. If you've read my second book, The Fishy Business of Being a Mermaid, you'll know that I've had some good experiences and bad experiences working as a teacher and trying to juggle my mermaid career. At one school, they loved that I did the mermaid work. In fact, whenever I got in a paper, they put my picture, they print it out, and they put it on the wall, they put it on the announcements. They called me Miss Mermaid. It was awesome. At another school, they told me it was a massive conflict of interest and I should never ever talk about it and I should probably consider not doing it at all as a job. Yeah, that kind of made me feel not so great. So one of the reasons I decided to stick with Raina was to differentiate my educational career with my mermaid career. But we all know that didn't last because where I live in Nova Scotia, at that time there was a bit of an economic burst. Things went downhill and there were no jobs for teachers, so I turned my mermaid business into my job. When I did that, I got a stalker, a local stalker, someone that I had to involve the police in. A newspaper article published my real name. I didn't ask them not to, they just, did it. From that, the person was able to find me on LinkedIn. From that, they were able to find out an old part-time job I had at a bookstore. From that, they went and asked somebody about me who actually knew me there, who sort of offhandedly said where I lived. Next thing I know, this person is calling me. They've somehow gotten my phone number. It's actually one of the reasons why I don't put a phone number online anymore for my business. They're calling me every day. They're emailing me every day. They're absolutely obsessed with me, and it's starting to get scary. And then I see this person in public and they chase me, and it happens on more than one occasion. So I had to call the police and get the police involved. I didn't press charges, but I did have the police meet with this man and ask him to leave me alone. And he didn't leave me alone right away either. So it took a few tries, and it really kind of scared me to have all of that out there. So I made the conscientious decision that, you know what, Raina is my name for my mermaid stuff, and this is what I'm going to use. And really, all these amazing people I meet through the mermaid world, my fans, the other mermaids I get to collaborate with, the photographers, they know me as Raina. My own doctor calls me Raina. My dentist calls me Raina. My boyfriend calls me Raina. He also calls me other names, like Cutie. And that's just, I need people to respect my choice and respect the choices of others. I once accidentally didn't respect the choice of someone else. I actually forgot their mermaid name and kept calling them by their real name. And they were like, you know what, I would prefer if you would call me that. It's no big deal. It's no sweat off my shoulders to call you by the name you'd prefer to be called. And really, we should start getting in the habit of this. People use different names for a reason. Even if they're not mermaids, somebody could be transgendered, and it's really, really telling of the type of person you are if you decide you won't call them by the name they're asking. Maybe someone's in a similar situation like I was. I had a stalker and they're using a different name, and it happens so much more than people realize. Stalking is a huge problem, especially in the age of social media. And maybe they're just like my friend Drew and they just want to go by their middle name. It's really none of your business, and it's really not your call to decide what that person should be called. So yeah, my name is Raina. Thanks for listening to my rant.